Gary Francis, wanting to put together a presentation to share with the world about a beautiful experience we've had recently. One that's unfortunately a story of great tragedy, but also extreme beauty, as I'm hoping to reveal to you through this presentation. It all took place in August last year at this place called Wadunda in South Australia. So without further ado, let's carry on. This is a story of two parts. One great tragedy that my wife and myself now live with and carry with us in our daily lives, and then the experience of how what can only be described as miraculous things came together to give us an unbelievable gift of life through that tragic loss. This is why I do these things, and I just need to be quiet and let this play now so that it speaks for itself, but give you an idea of why. So it's a bit of an introduction into what we're going to do and the journey that we're going to go on together as you listen to this video. For the next part of this is the first part of the two parts. This part is the tragedy part, and I've done the presentation in such a way that you can put me on mute if you'd like to until you see this slide change, because I'm about to start opening up about the tragedy part, and for people that aren't ready for that, please just put your audio on mute until you see this slide change. The story itself will still make sense to you without this component, but this is our lives, my wife and myself together now, and this is sadly the tragedy that we now live with every day as well. So without further ado, now's your time to put me on mute until you see the slide change, otherwise you're going to hear everything I'm about to say. So the tragedy of this story is that about 2.5 years ago now, our daughter at 27 unfortunately successfully committed suicide. And we're left now living life and refinding joy and fun and things without her. She was a nurse, fully qualified nurse, and she had medical conditions that were already at the age of 27 causing her to lose control of her right leg, to lose hearing, and to lose mobility and function in her arms. She was actually, as a nurse, treating people with advanced conditions as they go through their mature life and into older age. She was actually looking after the people who had the condition that she had. Her first operation was going to be fusing something like 13 of her vertebrae, and that was going to be the start opening operation to try and hold a modicum of life, quality of life together for herself. She was an incredible angel, not just because she chose to depart, but because she saw the future and worked out another way that she could avoid what was going to be another 30, 40, 50 years of just dreadful life quality filled with pain and the load that she'd put on all of us to look after her. It was not something that she could tolerate, so she found a way of taking the ultimate control of her own life and avoiding all of that pain and suffering. So yes, for my wife and myself, carrying the death of a child is horrendous. No one should have to live with this, but we are. I'm still proud of the action she took in taking control of her own life and avoiding all of the other suffering by finding her own solution to it. So I'm a little bit different. We're certainly suffering through it, of course we are. We will for the rest of our lives, but I'm actually kind of in a not morbid way, but just in a way I'm actually proud of the control that she actually took of her own life, in spite of the costs that my wife and myself are living with now, and the other kids, siblings, brothers, friends and family she had around her, who are all now living with a gap. On to the next slide. So my wife and I spend a great deal of time travelling Australia, car and caravan, grey nomads it's called here in Australia, and it's an envied lifestyle. We do it slightly different than a lot of people. We sort of go where we feel to be taken by our heart. And on this particular day, we ended up in Wodinnia, in South Australia, knowing something was coming towards us, but wasn't sure what. And by the way, of course, we didn't even know this town existed. So we rolled in, car and caravan, I don't know, about 3 o'clock in the afternoon. Very, very small town. But on an information panel, something caught my eye, which was these stones I'm using as a slide backdrop right now. And we could go and spend the night there at virtually no cost. So didn't know the town existed, and certainly didn't know what you're about to see existed either. So beginning there of a thread of a whole bunch of what some people might call coincidences, all coalescing to give us this fantastic experience we had that I'm now sharing with you. So let me show you the stones of Wodinnia, and this is only one area. There's lots of different areas. Massive granite outcrops, huge growing fields, obviously in South Australia, that you can see in the background. Amazing sculpting over, I don't know how long these things take to form and be sculpted like this, but just ridiculously off the charts. And when I was walking in around this area, both of my wife and myself independently felt to do some meditation to sort of get in some sort of resonance with where we were, because we knew where we were was quite special. So we spent a couple of hours doing that as the afternoon was ebbing into evening. And I managed to walk around the place and take a few photos of what now is an incredible location in our lives, which you're about to see why. So big granite outcrops. You can even see a caravan there in the background. Somebody else going to enjoy the place that night with us as well. Huge look over the whole of South Australia in that area, and you'll notice the sky. We're going to spend a fair bit of time talking about the sky in this presentation also. Some symbols around the place that I found that had great meaning for me. Translated things about rebirthing, restarting, recreation, and just a resetting of energy. Those things kind of were in the fore of my mind then, and remain today. So that gives you an idea of the location. We're in basically a town we didn't know really was there, and we're at a location which is just amazing, which again had no idea that this thing was here. Followed our heart to be here this particular afternoon and evening, and hopefully you enjoy this as the story develops. So then the sky started to happen to us. Amazing sunset that was developing, and huge cloud formations over us. Not storms, but obviously blanketed in cloud. And the colours that we saw at that point were already just incredible in the sky. Then the sun started to fall away over the horizon, as it does, and what you're about to see is a result of that. Couple more here, and then this happened, right? These colours, this amazing scene was before us. There's a photo of myself and my wife and two strangers we'd never met, a female and a guy. Spent a bit of time talking to the female, as you're about to learn, but I didn't really get to know the other gent that shared this evening with us. But here we are, following our heart to be in the right place, our hearts to be in the right place at the right time, in a very special location with this now developing around us. But this was just the start, so let me take you on a bit deeper into this journey. Here's what then proceeded to happen. So this is the same sunset as it's developed and developing before us as we're standing there on those stones in a place we didn't know it existed, on an evening that we were never even supposed to be there for, in a town that we didn't really know existed. And as you can tell, these photos do it no justice at all. To stand there on those stones and be that connected with the land, to have the sky open for us, is just incredible, as you can see. So we pause here for a second. What I've done is just run some of these night shots, evening shots together in a bit of a video, which I'd like to share with you. And it starts here, so I'll be quiet so you can lose yourself in watching this little animation play out. So I think it's fair to say that if we were ever supposed to be in the right place at the right time, that we'd been kind of spirit led to be at this place at this time. Now the significance of that date is that is only 2 nights before we would have been actually celebrating her birthday, should she remained here. So right place, right time, right town, right stones, incredibly so, the right sunset, and it was all happening virtually within 24 hours of actually her birthday. None of this, of course, escaped our attention, and we knew full well we were in for the ride, so to speak, as a just an amazing gift. And I'd invite you also, even on this photo, to look at the photo kind of in reverse. And what I mean by that is, if you could imagine this area of this part of the cloud as actually being the ground, and a golden pathway opening in front of us all to be able to walk off into the infinity that would speak of, where the two clouds had changed their texture. So that would hold the view of this being the sky, and then this part here of the same sunset actually being the ground with a golden pathway out before you, as you can see here. Just an incredible sort of welcoming and comforting golden pathway, as I call it, off into the sunset. So again, town we didn't know, location we didn't know, evening that we had no idea that this was all going to happen, and we were just stunned to have opened our hearts to manage to arrive to this place in time on that particular evening, so close to her birthday, to experience this. But the story's only just started, and that's the video screening there. The story's now only just started. I had a friend look at some of those photos, and she could read words in the clouds. I have no problems at all seeing the word mum in those clouds, and in big resolution, the actual calling out of that word is actually quite obvious in the photos when you see the different structures of cloud that were around that night, and these particular ones that were in the shape of the word mum looked actually quite different. I never saw them when I was taking the photos, of course. It took a dear friend of ours to call me back to actually have a look at some of the photos, and I have no problems with the fact that there was a word up there which was mum in that sunset. And I think, to be honest, my wife kind of felt that and responded, which is now what I'm going to take you to of what she did. So there's the 4 of us standing on the stones. One guy and one lady, like I said, and my wife turns to me, and she's quite a shy person, would have never done this in a million years. I would have put money on her not doing it. She started having a conversation with me about doing something even more special. Now that conversation made no sense to the other people that were on that stone that night, so I had to stop and actually tell them what my wife was talking about. And what she was talking about was we'd previously, about 10 nights before, brought this thing that we wanted to take home and sort of play with when we got home, which was an amazing, like a raincoat, but full of LED lights. And we hadn't even taken it out of the packaging, so we had no idea of how it was going to work or anything else. But I had to tell these other two what we were talking about for it to make sense to them, and whether they were willing partners, whether they were there because they needed to be for a soul perspective, whatever the reason, they were there. So I had to explain to them what my wife was talking about doing, which you're about to see. Now, they got the full story of our daughter, who was a nurse, right? And out of 4 people in the whole of Australia, the lady actually leant forward to both of us and gave us a hug, because she turned and said to us both, I am a nurse too, right? So now we start to stack these things up. We're in a place we felt to be. We're in a place that we didn't know existed that we felt to be in. We're seeing this amazing sunset, and we're sharing it with our daughter, but we're also sharing it with now a lady who shared the same occupation of our daughter. So now the odds of all of this coming and coalescing together to give us this evening starts to be what I can only call miraculous. So now let me take you. Nature's given us this incredible backdrop to be under for the night, and my wife's heart had opened, and she felt to share her soul with what was going on in that evening as a kind of a reply, I suppose. So without further ado, here's what it now looks like when she wears that coat. And you can clearly see the lady who was a nurse there, myself standing there, and the other gentleman that shared the time with us. They actually helped her get into it. We'd never turned it on before, and without them we probably wouldn't have got it working that night. But here's my wife now, convening with, as far as I'm concerned, convening with heaven, with this unused piece of technology now on her. And to give you an idea, it changes colour, light all the time. It's got a zillion modes of function that we've never bothered exploring. We were supposed to have it here for this night, and my brave wife used it to sort of reply in a way for what was being given to us. It was just a magnificent time to be there. So up close, our reply to the gift that we'd been given looks like this. And these are just a few photos of my wife wearing it and letting it change colours around us as she now started to dance in it on the stones, which I want to share some video of shortly. These photos now take our breath away. There's sunset brilliantly in the background with my wife doing this and allowing this to wash over her, as you're now about to see her very shortly dancing with this thing on. But just wanted to give you an idea of its changing mode. It's a pity I've had to blank out her face in that, because that photo there is just exquisite. But it's a magnificent piece of technology, and we used it well to reply to what had been given to us. And for those that want to see how fluky photography works as well, there she is, being the angel she was that night, convening with the angels in the sky above us. So it was incredible. And now we get to play some videos. So I've got about 4 or 5 little videos here that I'd like to share with you of what it's like for her to have danced that night. First time we've ever used it, so some of the movements are a bit clunky. But this one here starts with me on the ground looking up at her on top of the stones to give an appearance or a feeling of flight. So for the next 2 or 3 minutes, I'll just let these play and let you immerse yourself in what you're seeing. what it is to dance in heaven, really. Heaven came down to earth that day for us, and serendipitously we had the equipment to respond to the call and spend an amazing evening in celebration. And if you ever wanted to see angels almost in flight together, I could give you no better example than this. So there's a bit of video. We've got hundreds of photos from that evening. We've also got a lot of video from that evening also. But a snippet of where we found ourselves and how we responded with broken hearts to this amazing gift of about 8 or 10 layers deep, being in the right place at the right time, with the right view, with the right shared company, with the right equipment, and with a wife that was bold enough to actually put all of that down and just commune with what we were being immersed in that evening. Just an incredible, incredible experience. So there we have it. A very special time, so close to her birthday, in a place that we didn't know existed, with a nurse beside us to share that experience, and she actually made a video and gave it back to us as well. Unfortunately, its resolution's a little low for here, but let's just say a nurse that night, or two nurses that night, had an incredible experience, and we were privileged enough to share it with those two, and remain in contact with her now as a result. But why do I bother? We're just about finished with the presentation now, by the way. Why do I bother doing these things? Let me just wrap it up on the last slide, and then I'll stop recording. So I found this as a backdrop, and I found that to be incredibly fitting for the end of this message, and I need to now go quiet before stopping recording this and being able to share the resulting video with everybody. But if there was ever a message that I would give to the world as a result of our experience that evening, I now need to go quiet and just let this play for you. If I was to call out 2 lines, 3 lines on that, which I hope help share the love of this experience that we've had, but to help those who have had to endure incredible loss as well. I would probably say the first line, the answer of course is love. The love we are all given to carry and manifest, if brave enough we are to walk in it, is one that I'd call out. Life is an amazing experience if we hold the right attitude and energy around it. And the last two lines, I suppose, the love enough to share with others beautiful things, and to let that remind us of the quality of lives that we should actually all be living. And I hope now in some ways that we've captured this and recorded it to video, that this video will get shared far and wide to help spread love to those that are like us now, suffering in our loss, but also just to remind us all what we are supposed to be before we're supposed to be anything else. We are supposed to just be here to learn how to love and to give each other incredible things. Thank you for your time in watching this video.